Have you ever wondered how some people navigate their careers so intentionally? How do they move from their first job, maybe a role that didn't even align with their dreams, to leading thousands of people across countries? Welcome to Into It, the podcast where we decode real career journeys. Not the picture perfect ones, but the honest ones. Hi, I'm Munish, and in this episode, we meet Amit Ranjan, whose career started as a customer support representative, answering calls and managing people one conversation at a time. Today, he leads over 1,300 professionals across 11 countries at EY. His journey is a proof that growth doesn't come from chasing titles. It comes from staying curious, learning constantly, and then reinventing yourself when it matters most. Let's dive right into it.
Hi, Amit. Welcome to Into It.
Uh, Thank you for having me here. I think it's always exciting to kind of talk and happy to be here. Looking forward.
Pleasure, pleasure. So, as you know, our audience are all mid-career professionals and early professionals who may or may not be stuck in their careers, but they are trying to grow, trying to look at their next step, maybe at a career pivotal decision. So, the idea behind this conversation today is that from your experience at various organizations, especially EY, and then overall experience, how you have built your journey, or how it has been throughout, people learn a thing or two, and that's the whole idea.
Great, great. I think you started with a question that is very close to my heart, and especially because the kind of career journey that I've had. Uh, just to give a context, I've spent close to 19 years now with EY, and obviously there's some stint that I've done in the past as well. But very surprisingly, I started my career after my 12th in the world of fashion design. So, I did my 2-year course in fashion design, did some stint in export houses, fashion choreography, and design, and so on and so forth. And then I realized after 4 years that this is not something I want to do, which is surprising, right? Because when you pass out from your 12th, you're very enthusiastic about doing something. And then I chose this career. So, and I belong to a very small city, Patna. So for me, it was always exciting to come to a metro city and try out something else. So I actually moved to Bangalore, and at that time I thought, I should actually go to a small city called Tirupur near Chennai, which is a hub of export houses. So when I got an offer from a BPO in Bangalore, emphasis, I thought, best, I go to Bangalore, then I go to Tirupur, I continue my journey in fashion designing. Uh, Fortunately, unfortunately, I continued my corporate career. I stayed there for 3.5 years. I was extremely, extremely excited to be part of a great organization. So I changed my career from a fashion design to a completely operations and delivery in a BPO. And then I moved to Ernst& Young at that time, so EY now. So this is 2007 I'm talking about. And over the last close to 19 years, I have changed so many careers within EY, starting from an operations and delivery to program and change management, to operations and strategy and delivery. And now I'm managing a very large team, which I have transformed from what it was to what it is. So in a way, I think it's a calling, right? That you should not be afraid of doing what is there for you, right? You should always be ready to take a risk. So for those who are stuck or not stuck, do not worry about what's coming next, right? Feel what is there and kind of strive towards doing something which is very challenging. And I've not been afraid of any challenges, by the way. I've always taken that risk, and today I'm so proud to be part of a great organization. I'm a partner in EY, and that's really great. It feels very nice from somebody who started journeying from a fashion design to the transformation leader and delivery leader. It's a big transformation.
Yeah, yeah, and I completely resonate with that, and that just goes very well with the theme that I was thinking of when I was thinking about you, that you don't have to start at the top to be at the top. You just have to start, right? And then the road will show up, and you just got to show up there, and then sky's the limit. And you are an exemplary example with the journey that I just heard from Patna and fashion designing, and then making so many decisions, so many career changes within the organization as well, to being a partner. Wow, fantastic. So I'm very curious to know. You mentioned that after 4 years, you realized that this was not for you once you were doing the fashion designing. What made you think that, you need to make another decision or try something else?
I think it's a combination of the circumstances at anybody's life, right? I mean, for a lot of people at a certain stage, money is important. For a lot of people, it's about I'm bored of my current job, right? For me, at that time, it was all about money. I'll be very, very honest about it, right? Because I was stuck in a career that was not really taking me anywhere. So it was important for me to take a decision that do I continue with this, which in a way I did. I was thinking of, right, by going to Tirupur, but also the fact that do I have alternatives to kind of manage at the same time. So for me, it was an option of two reasons. One was money, of course, and the second was at that stage, do I have alternatives that can push my career? And at that stage, I was not even sure because switching a career at that stage is very risky. But like I said, you have to take risks.
Yeah. So what was the dilemma at that point in time? What was the risk involved here?
The biggest risk is that you do not have the educational background or at that moment, and I'm talking about 2003, right? So at that time, BPOs needed a superlative communication skills, right? You have this voice and accent training and so on. So I'm heading into a career at a stage where I had a decent communication, I'll say, not exemplary, I'll say. But then, is that the right choice to make? What if I fail? What if I'm not able to succeed there? Because I already have a career where I spent 4 years, and I have an option to join in Tirupur, one of the export houses. So I already had a career which was right there. So that was the biggest risk that I was thinking about that stage, Manish. Right? And that was the biggest risk, I would say.
Yeah, yeah. There's a definitive path and there is an unknown path. Um, and so, in your interview, and how did you get selected? Were there any, of course, you said communication, BPOs were all about communication. Was there anything that you remember stood out that your interviewer told you that, yeah, this is why we hired you?
This is a very funny incident, and not many people know about it. Uh, at the stage when I was interviewed, I was actually working as a center manager, in one of the leading fashion designing institute. And this guy walks in and he says, I'd love to take interviews of some of the students who are part of that. I'm like, yeah, go ahead, absolutely not a problem at all. And after like few hours, he came to me and said, are you interested? And I'm like, I mean, just came to interview some of my folks, and I was very young at that time. You can imagine at 2021, you're a center leader, and I'm like, why not, right? So first of all, this interview was not meant for me, right? Uh, it just happened, right? And the interesting thing was within the next 2 3 hours, all the rounds were done. Somebody from Pune interviewed me, somebody from Bangalore interviewed me. What was interesting at this stage was I so way back in when I was passing my 12th standard, I did appear for my National Defense Academy interview. So I'd been to Bangalore once for like few days for the interview, but I've never been to the south of India, never
Hmm.
before that, right? So for me, taking that big bold step to go to Bangalore was always interesting and exciting. But again, I took that risk, and I love Bangalore. I've lived there for 10 years. I absolutely love the city. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And what do you think, what's some of the learnings during that early phase of the career when you transition that still keep coming back? Because early careers shape a lot of your mindset, right? If you go into a service direction, you go into sales, you go into marketing, a lot of mindset in your professional journey gets driven with that. So what do you carry from that point in time?
One thing that remained consistent, from day one to day now is curiosity. I feel if you're not curious about what's coming next or what's happening in your life, could be anything, right? If you're not curious, you'll not learn. And if you're not learning, you're actually not growing, right? So for me, curiosity, learning has always been consistent. I've never, it's very interesting that I proudly say I'm a partner, but I've never chased titles, by the way, right? I've always been curious about what comes next, right? Like I took an example, and I'll not go into a lot of details. When I took over a team recently, it has grown 5 times in 5 years. Now, that's from a 200 to a 1,200 people. Now, I never planned to do it, right? I was just curious about how can I do things. I learned from the entire process. I made mistakes. My bosses have been absolutely supportive. I have a great team who kind of supported. So I think Learning, curiosity are two things that remain consistent. One thing that has changed over the career is I started with being very hungry about money and ambitious and all that. That stuff is still there, by the way. I mean, ambitious is not a wrong thing. But one thing that has changed is the humbleness quotient has actually increased a lot, right? So which is one thing that I've kind of started inculcating quite a lot from not now, from the last 10, 15 years. I've started building that in terms of being, less noise and more work. That's very, very important.
Yeah, yeah. No, and that's the whole idea behind our podcast as well, that you've got to stay intentional about what you're doing. And to stay intentional, the idea is that you be hungry, be curious, the next step. There has to be something for which you get up, right? It's not a cliche. And you realize this more and more as you grow older, that you need a reason to get up and go and work and do something which is very impactful.
If I can make a point here is, and you did touch upon this, is whatever you do, whatever, be passionate about it. Like you said, if you don't wake up early in the morning and then you're not excited about something, then you probably are not passionate about something. The passion is very, very important. Whatever you do, that's very critical.
Absolutely. Yeah. Great. You touched upon the growth from 200 to 12, 50, 1,300 people, some or 1,300 people that you're leading right now. How do you, and in such environments, in separate geographies, as you lead this team or have you grown this team, what, how do you keep yourself human while managing such a large team? Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it, I mean, my team says that, I was reading one of the LinkedIn posts yesterday. Somebody tagged me from my team and they said, I've learned from Amit when there are 17 things on fire. How can you keep calm, right? That's very, very critical. I mean, it also depends upon the style of leadership, right? I've advocated that big time in my current role and generally outside as well, is I believe in inverted leadership. All right. So for me, the most important people are people in themselves, right? So right on the top, that's the same word. And I'm probably the least important person because but that least important person is also managing the inverted pyramid, right? You have to keep a balance between the things. So I think what keeps me sane is I love interacting. I love talking to people. I love, listening to people as well, right? So, and this is my job. If my people are happy, my service delivery will be great, my customers will be happy. So keeping people as priority has always been the important thing, and that keeps me human.
yeah. For the sake of our audience, would you mind just giving a brief on invert leadership? Because that'll help. The pyramid that you spoke about.
Oh, sure, sure. So normally, if you go to any organization, right, if you think about a typical organization, you have people at the entry level, you call them staffs, associates, and then they grow up to become senior associates and so on. Then you become a team leader, then you become an assistant manager, then you become a manager and senior manager, and it goes on, right? I mean, if you think about some of the large organizations, they have got multiple pyramids, right? Multiple levels. And then there are flat organizations where there's staff and seniors and so on and so forth. Now, technically, the pyramid is like this, right? The topmost boss is the most important person in the organization, right? I believe that if you flip the pyramid and then you keep your staff and the senior, so I'm considering them as one single rectangle, they are the one who are doing the job. They are the one who have to do the job for you to save your job as well. So that's the thing I'm saying. It's an inverted pyramid where you talk about the topmost layer being your staff, associates, seniors, whatever you call it. Very important, your assistant managers as well. And that's why I'm saying that it does filter it down to a very small level, but everyone has an important role to play. But it also means that your bottommost layer in the normal pyramid is actually the most important layer in the inverted pyramid. That's really the concept.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. That helps. Um, okay. Tell me this. To be from the earlier stages of your career, when you were in the middle of the journey, what were some of the key transitions you made or roles that came to you, and what were the responsibilities that you were driving at that point in time?
So my first, I would say, 7.5 year career was initially very focused on managing delivery, small scale transitions, you know, operations, delivery, and so on and so forth. Pretty normal stuff, right? And then I was given an opportunity to work on something which was massive, which is being a part of a team that used to handle large scale transformation programs across the world. Uh, and I took that opportunity. You know, I started working as a project manager, became a program manager, did my change management certification as well. Now, very important, like I said, you know, learning is very important, right? So I kept doing certain things that enhance my, and doing a certification doesn't mean you get you know, a new designation, right? It's all about your personal learning. How can you do things better, right? And that's what I kind of did. I remember in 2013, my boss at that time told me, I was in London for some program and for 3 months for there, and he said, "Are you interested to actually move out of India?" And I said, "You know, why not? I would love to stay in London for another 2 3 years." And he said, "No, not London. Why don't you go to Poland?" And I'm like, you know what my instant reaction was? I said, "Yes." Trust me, at that stage, I didn't even Google Poland to see that, you know, what are the primary cities in Poland at that time. So that was one transition I did. I moved away from an operation delivery role to go into project and change. And then, you know, when I came back to India, I took over as the strategy and operations leader. So my journey towards strategy and transformation started. So I had a good base in terms of operations, delivery, program, and change. Now I wanted to utilize all that together to develop strategies for people. And then, you know, after 2 3 years in that role, I was then offered this role. And you know, then I realized that this is a massive opportunity because, again, with the experience I've had across verticals, I actually combine all that stuff together to grow this team. So I've made changes, like I said, from operations delivery to people to change transformation, and now real transformation, like managing a large scale business.
Yeah. What were some of the certifications or learnings that you did that you can, share with our viewers?
I did my project management. I did my Scrum certification. I did a lot of courses around change management. I think my idea was, I know it's very interesting that probably 70% of the population of India can't afford an IM or an ISP, right? Because they just don't have the means, not just about the education. I'm one of those 70%, right? So it's important that how can you pick up things? And in fact, I was extremely grateful. I think last year I spent 3 days in ISP Hyderabad. You know, it was part of our program, and we did some courses around transformation, storytelling, and so on. So it did happen for me, but it happened in a different way. So these small, I would say, the capsule courses really helped me to enhance my knowledge. And so my suggestion to your viewers are that there are tons of courses, you know, in Udemy, for example. You can just go there and learn a new thing, right?
Hmm.
So do whatever makes sense at that stage of your career, and then move on to the next one. It's important, right? That's what I did.
Yeah, like affordability, time, whether you want to do it self, driven course, or do you want to do it online or something like that. Yeah, so a lot of factors will play their role and at what stage you are at that point in time. Okay,
Yeah,
let's do
yeah.
this. Let's say if I have to transition to operations and strategy, right? Or let's say um, I am into my 30s, maybe into sales or some other domain, and if I need to now get into operations and strategy, and I'm thinking about it, am I the right personality? Do I have the right skills? How would I make it? Or would I be a good fit and would I do well there? So what should I be? How do I qualify myself as to be the right person for this job? Like internally, like what are my talents or
Mm.
strengths or the things that I should be aware of?
And I assume you're talking within the organization, right? Because yeah,
Yeah, it could be within the
could be
organization.
outside
You could
as well.
also,
Yeah,
if you could just, as you're thinking about it, you realize that, I love operations. I've done, so let's say if I was into sales or HR and I see that, okay, I love the operations. I love supporting people and whatever it takes. And I had a taste of it a little bit. And I see a good career there. So
mm.
how do I qualify myself?
So one thing, and I'm just being very blunt about this. If you go and give an interview, right, you know, at that stage, probably there are another 100 people who have got that experience who are interviewing for the same position. So chances of somebody getting through is difficult. I'll not say impossible. The reason I don't say impossible is because how much you have that small experience and how much you can passionately talk about this, right? And how much you can learn about the organization, right? The movement within the organization is much easier, difficult, but easier than going outside the organization. So, how can you do that? Is number one by obviously the stuff like around applying for jobs and all that stuff, right? But I think the number one thing that has worked in my favor is networking.
Hmm.
If people know that you are in sales, for example, but you've got an eye for operation and people and you love doing it, right? And you've demonstrated that in small bits and pieces, and you have a network of people who actually see what you do, then it becomes easier for you to start trying out some of those roles, right? So for me, the key number one thing is if you're in any organization, and by the way, a lot of people say, well, I'm an introvert, I'm an extrovert. Doesn't matter. Networking, it doesn't mean introvert or extrovert, right? Networking simply means that you're available for people when they need help with the right intention, right? You're actually I know thousands of people, but thousands of people do they know me is very, very important, right? So number one key is networking, Manish. I think that's the first step, right? Number two is the risk appetite, right? Are you ready to take that risk? People might fail. If they try a new thing, they might fail, but that's okay. It's okay to fail. And do you have a fallback option that if you do fail, I still can do, I'm still okay to kind of go ahead and do that, right? Number three is really showing. So I feel any job that you get into, external or internal, everyone talks about operation, everyone talks about strategy, right? I've done this, I've done that. But what can you do for that job is very important. What's your vision for that? That is critical because nobody talks about that, right? Very few people talk about how can I transform your role or your business when I come and join you as a group. That requires a lot of research, a lot of kind of information before you can put it across. Last thing I will say is whatever you do it with a sense of purpose.
Hmm.
A lot of people say, and there's a lot of learnings and thoughts about you should have a purpose in your life, right? And your actions should be driven by those purpose. I have a different take on this, right? I don't think your actions should drive your purpose. It should be the purpose that should drive your action, right? So if, for example, like I said, I'm passionate about managing your people. Now, is it because you want to make a difference in anybody's career? Is it because you want to build career? Maybe it is. So then the conversation you will have is much more better because you're going to be passionate and you have a purpose-driven conversation with that. So four things.
Cool. Great. Some hard skills, or where do people go and study strategy and operations? Do they go for MBAs? Or in some courses that you can recommend online?
I
Some
will say do
short
an M.
courses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I, I think doing an MBA is absolutely good, right? I recently, not recently, but I did a few years back from Narsi Monji. Again, I did a distance because I didn't had much time with a full-time job that I had. Uh, but strategy is also about experience. So my recommendation is whatever you find online on strategy, on Udemy, or through an MBA, just do it. I think it just builds the foundation for you. That's very, very important, right? I mean, there are multiple courses in IIM today, in IIM Calcutta and IIM Lucknow, where they actually teach a 1 year course. There's a 10-month course in IIM Bangalore as well. These are all good, right? The idea is for you to start thinking, right? All these courses will just help you to think differently. I'll not use the word out of box because that's a very common word. But strategy is all about thinking different things, right? How can you think what others can't? So an IAM or even Nasi Bonji or Simbi or all that stuff, all that colleges are absolutely great. Go anywhere, do a 6 to 12 months of course, 1 year course, which can be part-time, which can be in campus, whatever people can prefer. Learn that. But then strategy is all about experiences.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. Uh, you may have all these structures and frameworks, but a lot of experience plays its role into how you shape things up, and that comes from trying and working on different things. Yeah. do you use any, and it requires a lot of critical thinking as well. Do you use any particular decision making frameworks when you are looking at your team inside the organization or making very pivotal decisions, big decisions?
I think there are internal EY tools that we have. I can't tell you a lot about that, uh, but there are tons of tools available online. Tons of tools, right? Uh, for any framework that you really require for a decision making, uh, just do a Google search and you get tons of it. Use any
Yeah,
framework that you want to. But
yeah.
one thing that it did not touch upon is the entire concept of storytelling. You know,
Hmm.
you can build, so you can learn strategy in a college. Now you have experience to build strategy, but the most critical part is how do you communicate strategy, right? And that requires a lot of storytelling.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
is the most crucial thing. Storytelling is something that we can learn, but again, it is practice and practice, right? I keep taking the example of the Cadbury's ad, which I absolutely love, right? Because they're the best storytellers, right? In terms of how do they never sell the chocolate, right? They sell emotions, and chocolate is a byproduct of that, right? So that's
There are so many things that I can resonate to being a part of the organization that I am in. Because Dale Carnegie used to say human beings are a creature of emotion and not logic.
yeah,
And
yeah,
another thing that we are known for executive presence and communication skills and interpersonal skills, right? So there's one beautiful quote that I also remember. He says that you can say the truth, but you've got to show showmanship. So
absolutely,
very
absolutely.
resonating with that. Absolutely, yeah.
Mm.
Communication is
Yeah.
really, really important. Great. Um, some values that are really, really close to your heart when you are leading people.
Be honest. That's number one. All right. It's not about pleasing people. If you're not able to tell them the right path by giving them the right feedback, which means you have to be honest about everything, right? Second is like you said, be intentional. Be intentional about helping somebody. That's very critical. I think that's something that's very, very close to my heart. Third is, people will make mistakes. All that things will happen, right? How are they sure that you're there to back them up in the worst possible moment is what is very, very important. So I think three things that really drives my personal value, because I think it's important that we make good difference when we go. There are people who can actually remember you for doing good things, right? So that's the value that I really focus on.
Yeah, and then you make mistakes. Somebody would have hurt you, encouraged you to, and somebody would have bashed you as well, which is
Yeah, yeah,
fine, but
absolutely.
many times. But you
Yeah,
always remember the person who encouraged and you supported, and that's a true leader there.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Um, so I'm very keen to also know if there has been a big and we've moved through various transitions, right, in your career, and um, has there been a what has been the most difficult time at a career level, and what was it, and if you want to share that, even if it's a personal story or a professional story, and how did you navigate through it?
I I think my biggest I'll not use the word setback, but I think one place where I started thinking about where am I heading in my life is quite recently, right? I was very close to my mother. Unfortunately, she passed away in January of this year, and that made me think that what am I working for? Is it really worth doing what I'm doing, or should I be doing many more things in my life? So I think that's been a still a turning point, right? And I in fact went to I'll be honest about it. I went to my boss and I said, "We just take a sabbatical for 6 months," right? So I don't know what was happening at that stage of my career, and then I actually found a sense of purpose. My sister started you know, a it's called the Purple Canvas, and the idea was really how can we really coach people, how we can really mentor people, and I thought that's the calling which I have. I can really, of course, it's for my sisters is all free of cost, but then the idea was really to get engaged, to help people with whatever they are, whatever they need. I'll tell you, in today's world, people are want somebody to be heard.
Hmm.
There's nobody listening to them, right? And I think the idea was, so I think this was one stage, one event in my life recently that has changed my entire perspective towards my career. I'm in a very touch with a very safe space in my career, very great leadership, good job. Uh, and it's also important that I now get my purpose moving as well at some point.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I think all of us need that one thing. And my my father passed away in 2023, and very
So
close to him. And it's the same thing. You start questioning yourself that okay, you're doing this, you're working, there is a purpose there, you're working for people. What is it something that you can give to the world on your own in your own space? Yeah, because that brings a lot of fulfillment because that's not associated with something.
mm,
Yeah, it's
absolutely.
like yeah. And how do you keep yourself sane? What's the go-to break thing? What do you love apart from work and all of that, right? Like your hobbies or I'm going in that direction.
I love traveling.
Yeah.
Travel is like the ultimate thing that I have. And I have got different groups I travel with, right? In my office, in my personal life, there are different groups I travel with. So anytime they plan a travel, I'm there. So technically speaking, in the entire 12 months, we've got six group planning six different travel. And you can imagine I'm everywhere, right? So I love traveling. So that's number one. Uh, I I I do uh, again, this is very interesting. Like career, the passion and the hobbies also keep changing, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes, right? So recently started playing badminton and cricket, which I left ages back. So started playing that too, and I'm really getting excited about some of this, right? But yeah, travel and sport remains the number one priorities for me. I'm an avid OTT person. I love watching OTTs. My favorite, all-time favorite has been Suits and Big Bang Theory. I can still repeat it and watch it again and again and again. So three things that I really love doing.
Yeah, great. Yeah, no, travel changes you. Yeah. And you would I want to know a little bit about Purple Canvas as well. So is this is like people can find mentors there, can apply for it, and of course it's coaching and mentoring both, or is it just one of them?
It's got three pillars, right? So the first pillar really focuses on rediscovering yourself, right? It could, and I keep saying it's not healing, right? But it's
Hmm.
also about rediscovering yourself and we've just started, by the way, right, Manish? So it's going to have our first session on actually on this Sunday. But the idea is, how do you think about you in focus? Right, right, and I'll reveal more in the workshop, but the idea is that's number one. Number two is sometimes you need to get isolated from the world to really think about what's, so that people don't want to think about their worst nightmare, for example. I mean, I'm telling you, I tried a few things on myself about thinking about something I never wanted to think, and it made me cry, right? So I really want, that's our second pillar, is really about awakening, right? It's about soul space. We do have some experts who are psychologists, and we are looking at akashic reading and tarot card reading and all that stuff together, putting a package together. The third one is about leadership, right? So that's about, if you technically look at any of the leadership trainings, it's about templates, it's about PowerPoint and so on. But our focus on leadership training is all about identifying yourself with the purpose. So if you want to be a good storyteller, which I think I've done a lot of work on storytelling. So if you're a good storyteller, or you want to do a session on gratitude, basic
Hmm.
stuff, right? But how do you really inculcate those habits within yourself? So people can go follow that page, they can register themselves. We're starting with the pillar one. At some stage, we'll have pillar two and pillar three as well. I do some I do some sessions in different colleges, right? More of a voluntary basis where I talk about different topics. And this could be one space where people can just come in, follow, and start registering themselves to see how they can make a difference. In fact, we do have one-to-one coaching as well, where if people just want to talk about how can they improve themselves in their career, that forum is also available, Manish.
Hmm.
All that
Hmm.
stuff is there. So I think for people to know more, they'll have to go to the Purple Canvas on Instagram and really follow that.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about so. what if somebody's stuck in their, career, and what should be steps, like 4 steps that you would want them to you follow?
The first question is they should ask themselves, why are they stuck? That's the number one question, right? Everyone feels they are stuck, right? And I use the logic of the bread and butter and the cheese on the top, right? We all have to do a job, even if we like it, dislike it, if we're stuck in our job. But that's our bread and butter, it gives us money. But the cherry on the top, the cheese on the top is something that you can develop yourself, right? The example that you gave where I'm in sales, for example, that could be my bread and butter. I'm stuck, but I still have to do it because I need, money to feed my family. The cheese on the top could be the fact that I can start learning or doing things around operations or people, the example that you were taking, right? So how do you do things that you're passionate about, number one, right? And then gradually increase the share of that cheese slice and reduce the share of that bread and butter, which means you're transitioning towards something you're passionate about. You can't do it in day one. You can't just jump from a bread and butter to a cheese slice on next year, right? So how do you gradually increase? So if you're stuck in your career, take a step back, ask yourself why you're stuck. Are you stuck because maybe you have a bad boss? Are you stuck because you need more money? Are you stuck because this is not something you really want to do? So ask that question to yourself, right? And when you have the answer to that question, and it's not easy. You need a complete calm mind to get into, intentional about your thought process. Now, once you've identified that, then you take the next step. So let's say you're stuck because you don't like your job and you're not passionate about it. So that's where the bread and butter and the cheese concept really comes into picture. But let's say you're stuck because of money. Now, if you go and ask anybody in this world, do you have enough salary? The answer is no, right? But is money the primary objective, or is it about how much money is good money? We don't know that, right? I mean, if we increase our salary, EMIs will go high. It never stops, right? So where do you stop? So I think it's a balance between multiple things. Start with the question, identify the path you have to take, and then take actions to kind of fix that problem.
And how do you identify the part? Do you like go on this self-awareness, self-discovery journey as to, how do I, and then look at the skills? How do you go about that? If I have to do
Ask
this, do I go online? Do I do a chat GPT? Do I do something else?
ask an expert. Ask for help. I'm telling you because sometimes, I mean, ChatGPT can just tell you what it can tell you, right? I keep saying that AI is great, but AI also needs a human brain to kind of think differently. But this is a case where we are saying, what why am I stuck? So you need a mirror. You need somebody who can really coach you, right?
Hmm.
Who can really, and coach will never give you the solution. You need to find your own solution,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But as a coach, and I do that quite often with some of the people I have in the organization, is tell me what you're thinking. Simple thing. Tell me what you're thinking. Why are you stuck? What makes you passionate? What makes you happy? What makes you feel that if I do X, I'll be happy more than I when I do a Y? Have you tried it? Have you tried? So I think it's about asking the right question and helping this person identify the core issue. Maybe you never know it. They might say, "Oh, I'm happy with my job. I don't need to go anywhere." It's
Yeah.
quite
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah. Yeah. Quite possible. Once you get to the root.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So ask for help. I think that's ask for help from your friends, your colleagues, your mentor, professional, whatever it is. Ask for help.
A lot of people say that you can just go out on LinkedIn, look at people in your field, or the field that you want to transition to, and just send them a cold email, chat, message, something, some request. Do you think a lot of people respond well generally? Is that a good way?
I'll be very honest, it's very difficult or very different expectation that a person, when they get a message, they will respond. It's unfair, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
we're talking about 3,000, 4,000, 10,000 people who are following this person. And imagine getting 50 messages while you're doing a full-time job and you're doing something you're passionate about. So it's very
Yeah.
difficult, right? It's okay to reach out, but if you don't get a response, don't get disappointed.
Hmm.
That's my only suggestion. That's one way to try it out, right? Sometimes you don't, right? And like I said, if 30 people message me, maybe by the time I go to and see my messages, it's a month, so the action is already kind of taken care, right? So I think it's one way, but not the most efficient way, is what I'll say.
Hmm. Hmm. Are there, with this all this AI stuff, and we talk about jobs and all, that we will lose it, or a lot of people will lose it. How is AI affecting the operations and strategy part of it? And I personally think that there could be a lot of things, but strategy, critical thinking is still a job. It's still something which is very nuance based, and you have to take impromptu decisions and navigate through the complexity, especially in a larger organization. So, what do you think about AI and operations and strategy as an overall thing?
See, I personally use Chat GPT quite a lot. All right.
Hmm. Hmm.
I use it when I have a thought in my head, right? That initial thought process, or refining the thought process, or taking a decision impromptu, like you said, is still you. It just helps me. So you asked me this question at what kind of templates. I mean, if I have a thought process, I can simply put in Chat GPT, get it on a template, right? So
Hmm.
getting a template, all that stuff is kind of all automated now. I don't have to go anywhere, right? But you cannot, I mean, there's a whole new world of prompt engineering now, right? And there are books created on prompt, right?
Yeah.
Now, for me to operate an AI, I need to be somebody good at prompting, right?
Yeah.
So for me, all that is good, but I think the most important thing is AI will affect, right? AI will make differences, but how do you use AI to get more efficient, right? So if you are, let's say, in strategy world, and you have to create a strategy for the next 3 years, you just can't say, "Give me a strategy," because they're still looking at, it'll help you get the work from billions of other places and give you a certain direction. But is that direction the right direction? Is something that you have to link it back to your vision and purpose. So, having that prompt is very important. So again, your thinking is your prompt, right? So you have to start thinking and doing it. So yes, it'll have an impact on operations for sure, because there's certain mundane stuff. My concept is, if you're doing something on a daily basis in a single standard way, that's AI, right? But then anything beyond that is where you can actually use AI as somebody, as a friend who can help you do things better.
Hmm.
That's my
Hmm.
thought on AI.
So here as well, it's not more about replacement, it's about coexistence. You leverage and you use the tool. Uh,
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. Anything anything that you would advise to people right now who are entering into, let's say, consulting as a space,
Consulting,
or the
see,
big
consulting
fours,
is,
yeah,
yeah,
generally.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I think any big four, again, there are different verticals, right? Audit is one of the core foundation of any of the big four or big six, right? For any auditors to be great, they have to understand, what are the current practices across the global CPAs and ACCAs and chartered accountancy. But beyond that is how, again, linking it back to AI and data, is how can you use data and AI along with your audit experience to really make a difference to the firm. That's very important, right? Certain things that you do as an auditor can be automated, right? It is automated, by the way, as we
Yeah.
talk, right? The things that is automated. So one advice I have is, if you're doing your ACCA, CPAs, you're doing your commerce, and you want to get into Big Four, there'll always be jobs, right? There'll always be people who are ready to take you. But how do you add that additional flavor of data analytics and AI is very, very important. So that's
Hmm.
that's around audit. Then comes the entire consulting bit of it, right? Now, consulting is not a day one job, right? Consulting is all about, you start somewhere and then you learn from the bottoms up approach, right? So if you want to be a great consultant, number one, you have to have the mindset, again, I said, of learning, of curiosity, great communication, where you can just get in, and patience. I think that's one thing that is missing right now, is when you get into a job, right? You need to be patient. You need to give some time to learn things. You cannot change the world in 1 year. So be
Yeah.
patient, start building your career, and then you can become a great consultant. If you know the business, you can obviously become a great consultant. And then you have other fields like tax and strategy and transaction, all this stuff, where you need certain specialized qualification to kind of get in. But if I interview somebody, I just need somebody who's hungry, and decent communication skill. For me, willingness is more important than skill. That's what I look at. Are they the right fit into my organization? Will when they come to my team, am I going to be very enthusiastic about this person?
Yeah,
That's what I look for.
yeah, great. All right. Almost coming to the closing for today, Amit. So maybe have some fun. So there's this little bit of a rapid fire round that we can probably go
Okay.
through.
Okay.
Uh, okay, ready for it?
Yeah. Hope so.
So project management or people management?
People management.
Hills or beaches?
Oh, both actually. Depends on this on the time of the year. But I love both Goa and Himachal.
Oh, wow, fantastic. Yeah. So one leadership myth you want to bust.
The inverted pyramid. Leaders are the most important people in the organization.
Fantastic. Yeah. Yeah, that's a great answer. Uh, strategy or operations?
Strategy any day.
A book or quote that stayed with you for years?
A recent one, I was reading this book called You Can Heal Yourself and by Louis Hay, an absolutely brilliant book. It'll stay with me forever.
I think everyone needs a little bit of that self. Yeah, we're too hard on ourselves. Yeah, yeah,
Yes, yes,
definitely,
absolutely.
definitely. Um, if not corporate life, let's say, what would you be doing?
I would love to travel and blog.
Are you also working on it parallelly, maybe at some point in time?
At some point of time, yes, yes, absolutely. I would love to write a book at some point of time. I want to do too many things. I'm getting old, but I still have a lot of things I want to do. I
A
want to
lot
open a
of
cafe.
desires.
Yeah, I want to open a cafe. I want to write a book. I want to travel, write blogs. So many things.
Yeah,
Too many
fantastic.
things.
Yeah, 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 great. Um, okay, that's it. And you did well. Thank you so much for that, for very honest answers. Any parting thoughts? What's your message to my audiences? Anything that you want to give to the world?
If you have not watched this movie, and I'm sure a lot of people have already watched it, but go back again and watch this movie called Pursuit of Happiness,
Oh,
right? It will tell you how privileged we are in our world.
yes.
And my message is, if you are privileged in whatever way and whatever way you are, be happy about it. That's my message.
Yeah, yeah. Certainly a lot of gratitude and humility there, Amit. Well, thank you. Thank you for your time.
Absolutely, Manish. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's always exciting to be part of these forums, and I hope I made even that 1% difference. So thank you for inviting me.
I'm sure you did, definitely.